Hi, I'm Elaine from the North Carolina Transportation Museum, and today we're going to be making a bicycle journal using paper cupcake liners. Let's get to it! For today's craft, you'll need 2 pieces of construction paper, some filler paper like white copy paper, construction paper strips which will make your bike trail, some cupcake liners, either large or small, and if you don't have cupcake liners, you can make 2 circles out of construction paper and a cup, some buttons, some yarn or ribbon, some crayons, a glue stick, a hole punch, black marker, some scissors, a pencil, and a ruler. Let's get to today's craft. The first thing I'm going to do is draw a line to create the binding of my journal. So I'm just going to take a ruler up along the edge of the paper and draw a pencil line. This helps me to know where I'm going to put my bicycle. Then I'm going to choose a color to make my pathway. So I think today I'm going to use brown. It's about a 2-inch strip and then the length of the paper. So I'm going to take my glue stick and then glue my path onto the bottom edge of my paper. Then I'm going to take my paper cup liners and I'm going to flatten them out with the color side up. And after you do that, you're going to take your glue stick, flip them over, take your glue stick and make sure that the glue comes to the edge of the paper liners. You don't need it so much in the middle, but you do need it on the edges. You glue your first wheel down, so this is my back wheel. And put a little bit on your path and a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch maybe, away from your binding line. And you do your second wheel. And you can put it near the front of your paper, giving yourself enough room in between your back wheel and your front wheel. And just rub them on so you know that they're glued down well. Now it's time to play connect the dots. And you're going to be making your own dots to connect. So you make a pencil dot in the center of one wheel, your back wheel, and then a dot in the center of your front wheel. Then you're going to make a dot between the 2 wheels, a little bit lower. Then what you're going to do is these 2 lines are parallel lines. So you're going to draw a dot that is a little bit above the back wheel and almost in between those 2 dots. It's like you're making a triangle. So here's one dot. Then you need to make a dot that's a little bit higher so that you can create your handlebars, but it's still going to be, your line is going to be parallel to this line that you're creating over here. So and then what you're going to do is begin to draw your lines. You can do them by hand or you can take a ruler. So I'm going to make my back triangle and connect this dot to this dot. That's one side of my triangle. Here's the other side of my triangle. And now the third side of my triangle. Then I'm going to create my front line, which will be for my eventually be for my handlebars. And on this line, you're going to go maybe about 1/2 inch down from this dot and make another dot. Then you connect this bottom dot to this dot. Then you have your dot here, and you're going to connect it to this dot. Then you're going to make a little bit longer line here. And what I'll do now, because I want to create these dark lines, I'm going to color them in with my marker. And I go over it twice, kind of once on the line and then once above to make it thicker and stand out. Now it's time to make my seat and my handlebars, but first I have to create some little T's. So on this back, I'm going to make a T. So here's my T, and here I'm going to make a T. So I'm done with my markers for right now. I'm going to use my crayons. I chose white, but you can use any color you want to make kind of the piping that comes up that's going to connect your seat and your handlebars. For your handlebars, you're going to make a backwards J, or almost like a candy cane. So here's my little white candy cane. And the crayon almost makes it look like there's two handlebars there. My seat is like two teardrops, a little teardrop in the front and then a bigger teardrop in the back. So that creates my seat. Then I'm going to create my little petal at the bottom. The petal almost looks like a popsicle, one of those big summertime popsicles. Now, if you have buttons, this is when you can use them and put them on your picture. So I have two of the same size buttons, a little bit smaller, and one bigger button. I found that they can be glued on with the glue stick, but you have to use a lot of the glue stick. And make sure the back of your button is flat. So you're going to push it in the center where that one dot was. My front. Push that down, and this is the center where typically different chains come through the bicycle. Okay. Now the next thing is I like streamers on my handlebars. So this is where you're going to use ribbon or yarn. I'm going to use yarn on this. Because a hole punch won't fit all the way down, you're going to use a pencil. And just be careful because you're going to punch a hole through your paper. And you don't want to jab your hand in the back. So you take your pencil and kind of turn it around and make a hole at the very end of your handlebar. Then you go a little bit in, but enough so that you can create another hole. And you do it at the bottom of your handlebar. So here are my two holes for my handlebars and my streamers. I'm going to use all three colors of yarn. Cut the yarn about 4 inches or so. And you're going to take your yarn and thread it from the front to the back, flip it over. And this is where you may need to take your pencil and push those little pieces of paper to the front, making it easier to thread your yarn through. And then you go from the back to the front. Now I have my yarn, but it's not kind of broken apart like this, like streamers might be. So you take your yarn and you untwist it. So you spin it around and you untwist it, all your strands. Kind of pull them apart and then let them ravel. So here are my streamers. If you use ribbon, now it's time to put my journal together. So I take my filler paper, however many sheets you want. Might use 4 or 5. Might have my back piece of construction paper, my filler paper, and then my top page. And I take my hole punch, and I come about 2 inches down from the top, as far in as my hole punch will go. Same from the bottom, about 2 to 3 inches. And I take the same yarn that I used for my streamers, and I'm going to lace my book together. And the length that I did was 2 lengths of my journal. I match up my holes. Once again, just like you did for your streamers, you're going to lace your book together. Doing it from the back to the front on both sides. Bringing it together. And I tied it with a bow. You don't have to, you can just tie it with a knot if you want. I tied it with a bow. And then if you want to cut it to make the same length, you can. Then you can title your journal whatever you would like. I've titled this one my bicycle journal, Elaine's bicycle journal. So you just take your marker or your crayons. If you use smaller paper cups, then you can actually do your journal vertical rather than horizontal. Feel free to color your journal, make it your own. And there you have it, your own bicycle journal. I hope you had fun making your bicycle journal. We'll have another craft next week. Hope to see you then.
Continue to learn at home with other great videos from the North Carolina Transportation Museum on Facebook, YouTube, and nctrans.org. The North Carolina Transportation Museum in Spencer is the museum that moves you.